Thanks for joining our Ask Me Anything. We're really glad to have you on, and we can kick it off with just kind of an introduction to our panelists. So do we want to start with Rahul?
Thanks, Erin. Hello, everyone. My name is Rahul, and it's great to be with all of you today. I'm a support consultant at On the Mark, and I'm just very fortunate to do amazing org design.
No.
Uh,
I don't think Molly was talking to you, Raul.
I agree, Mark. And the other thing that I'd like to share is that I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm blessed to have a daughter. Currently, I'm working here from the UK. Thanks.
Thanks,
Dan?
Rahul. Yeah, why don't I follow you out? My name is Dan Schmitz. I'm calling you from Boulder, Colorado. That's where I live and that's where I work when I'm not on a client project. I've been with On the Mark almost 5 years, and prior to On the Mark, I was a member of Pepperdine's MSOD program. So I know that the Bowling Green program is held in high regard, and I'd love to see a quick show of hands who is either in that program or an alumni of that program. Debbie, that's you. Linda, no, you, Thomas. All right, Daisy. So I would absolutely love to see you in the course. I'm not exactly sure of your registration status, but as one OD program member to another, I think it'd be a great fun. Mark, I'll pass it to you.
Great, and I'll pass it back to Erin. Hi, everyone. I'm Mark LaScola. I'm Erin, Raul, and Dan's colleague, and Dawn's colleague. Dawn's on here as well from On the Mark. I think she's just listening in. I'm calling you from Phoenix, Arizona, where it's just a few minutes past 9 a.m. And I just happen to be the founder of On the Mark, going back 33 years. So it's a delight for me to be here. Erin, we should also have Tom introduce himself from the BGSU program, and have Dawn as well. Dawn, do you want to go first, and we'll go to Tom?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Dawn. I'm joining based in London in the UK. I have been with On the Mark for grand old 2 weeks, a whole 2 weeks at On the Mark. But I've worked in organisation design for more than 10 years, mainly in sort of major UK retailing organisations. So that's me.
Tom?
Good to see everybody, and some of you obviously I definitely recognize some names. Molly, good to see you. Debbie, good to see you. Val, Daisy, good to see you guys. Tom Daniels with the Bowling Green State University MOD and DODC program as the admissions person, as well as a graduate of the MOD program from 2006, and happy to offer this to our students and alums from the MOD and DODC programs. Deb O'Neill and I were able to sit through the Masterclass and participate last March. As all of you know, COVID last year, so we weren't able to take our students on an international experience. And so what we did was we worked with Mark and had the students travel to Scottsdale, where Mark is, and go through the Masterclass workshop last year. We found it incredibly valuable, which is part of the reason we've partnered with them again this year to offer it to all of our students and alums as an option. So Mark, good to partner with you guys again. And for those of you who are here, hopefully can ask some really good questions to get a little more clarity on what you might expect if you go through the Masterclass, and get all the answers that you're looking for. So if you have any specific questions for me related to the program, just let me know.
Yeah. Erin, do you want to tee it up, or are we good to go?
Yeah, so I just want to introduce our special guest speaker, Kristin Pachmayer. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly.
Pachmayer, but it's fine.
Oh, Pachmayer. Okay, got it. Kristin is our chief guest here. She is the HRBP for Victrex Americas. And she was also a Masterclass alumnus from Blackpool in the UK. So thanks for having us and thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So I'm currently sitting just outside of Philadelphia. But fun fact, I am originally from Ohio, opposite corner of BGSU, a small town outside of Marietta, Ohio. So when I saw it was BGSU, I was like, oh, that's really, really nice. So I'm happy to be here and share some wisdoms with you all. Thank you.
Thanks
for
Kristin.
joining us, Kristin.
Absolutely.
The intent of the Ask Us Anything, and one of the things we like to do is have our alumni and our customers kind of tell the story. So we always invite some of our alumni to come be part of the Ask Us Anything. And really, the Ask Us Anything is really falls Linda, Jordan, Debbie, Daisy, really Molly. What do you want to ask about our masterclass? And as you ask, we'll answer your questions. We also are very well aware there are other master classes out there, or I'll say that a bit tongue in cheek, and happy to talk to what differentiates us and what you can expect. So any question we'll take with any question. Anyone want to start us down the road?
Hey, Linda, I think, yeah, chime on in, maybe raise your hand if you're sensing that there's some competition for the microphone. But yeah, let's just do it verbally if we can.
So could you sort of talk to us about what's a day in the life? Like what would each day look like, the time frame? And then I'm also interested in understanding what the pre-work would look like.
Dan, you want to take the pre-work and then I can take the first couple of days. We can ping pong back and forth.
Yeah, that would be fine. Linda, the pre-work tends to be maybe a couple of assigned readings and maybe a bit of reflection to connect those readings to your lived experience and just get you prepared to come in and hit the ground and the topic, prepared to move forward fairly quickly. It's not a significant burden. I would say that for every day, you knowing that this is compressed into 5 in-person days, you might have an hour of article reading, maybe an hour and 15 minutes, 90 minutes at the outside. But that's what you can expect. And the reason it's important is because when we come together in the morning, we almost always have a reflection. We make sense of the content. And then that serves as a springboard for the remainder of the day's material.
The one thing I would add, Linda, is some of you, we will request that you bring a project with you. Some of you might actually have a project that you're going to be working on throughout the workshop. If you don't, we will bring some case studies and let you do that just to have a reference point. But for those of you who do have a project, we'll talk about what that criteria for that project should be like. And so part of that work will be pulling together some information for yourself to leverage during the workshop. What I would say, Linda, is a couple of things about the flow of the work through the week. The first is day 1 and day 2 really focuses on what is an operating model and what is organization design and what it's not. And all the levers that you can pull and push that will impact performance of an organization around an operating model. You're going to hear this from Dan and I and Rahul and Dawn, and you're going to hear it more than once, is that the health warning is you will never look at work the same way after you're done with our masterclass. And in fact, the first couple of days, by day 2, I would predict that you'll be in a mental state of discordance because you're trying to take what we're teaching you and trying to basically put a square peg into a round hole or a round peg into a square hole, and it's not going to work for you. And based on your experience. And so part of what's going to happen in the workshop is there'll be a significant psychological journey to make sense of what is organization design and how does that differ. I'm thinking Kristin might have some insight onto that given the experience. But why, Kristin, before you go, why don't we have Dan just summarize kind of days 3, 4, and 5, if you will. Dan, you want to kind of give some headlines?
Yeah, yes. Days 3, 4, and 5 are primarily oriented to moving around on the Mark's organization design cycle. Now, the cycle itself starts with contracting, but what we find is that if we hold that off and cover that off at the end, then it becomes more clear what it is, what types of questions, what it is you're really contracting for when you're talking to a leader about potentially bringing their unit of service through an organization design cycle. So we start with current state review, and then we wrap all the way around to implementation and stabilize the design, and then governance, and then we come back to contracting. So that's the general flow of subject matter in days 3, 4, and 5. Now, what we don't do is we don't become slaves to an agenda. So if there's rich discussion in one of those phases, whether it's current state review, whether it's foundation, and onward, we will dwell in that area for a bit, because what we want to ensure is that you have the opportunity to learn as much as you can, rather than us at On the Mark delivering this agenda-driven masterclass that says, okay, it's noon on this day, it is time for us to move forward. Now, and your questions remain unresolved. Now, that said, we do have material that we try to get through. So you'll find some flexibility. Maybe sometimes we accelerate, maybe sometimes we slow down, but it's all in service to your learning, not in service to our ability to say at the end of the day, did we land on all the parts of the agenda timeline that we expected going into the masterclass.
Kristin, why don't we give some space for you to talk about your experience, maybe to Linda and that. And then I also saw Molly had her hand up. So Molly, we'll come back to you next. So give Kristin some space here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. It was an intense week, to say the least. And Mark is quite right. The first 2 days are the most grappling. It's climbing Everest in a way. And it is as physically exhausting as it can be mentally. But there's a breakthrough that you hit. And I think we hit ours late in day 2, I think so. And then we started to kind of, you break through the clouds, you see the sunshine, and it starts to really resonate more. And that makes the rest of the week just go a bit more fluidly, in terms of you feel like you're really grasping onto the concepts, and you're capturing the essence of the program, and everything that has been drilled into you from day 1 and day 2 is really starting to make sense in all the other pieces. It's a good week still though, and I don't say that in terms to scare you from it, because at the culmination of it all, at the end of the week, you realize why day 1 and day 2 are so important.
We had, thanks, Kristin. We have an interested colleague, a gentleman named Mark Kim, who called us and said, I've taken other master classes. I get really frustrated because it doesn't deal with the level of detail, roles to jobs and management operating systems and governance. And he was asking if we covered those things. I guess, Kristin, to you do you feel like, was it sufficient detail covered? And I know it's a bit of a leading question for you. We haven't rehearsed this in any way, but it would be worthwhile to hear what you think about that.
Absolutely, the level of detail is deep, and it's deep for a good reason. Going through the levers is the one that sticks out the most to me, and I know Rahul will understand, having been there himself, where we needed that extra detail, we needed that extra depth, and we spent more time on it, and we got so deep into the levers and that detail, and it took a bit, but when it finally did click for us, we started to really see why that detail was so important for that day and the rest of the week. So absolutely, the level of details here. I've got my Bible sitting in front of me as we speak, and lots of pages of detail in there.
Kristin, that's a really great example of us having to, us being the collective, us, everybody in the room, at times slow down. Because if there's some questions, some uncertainties about, say, the design levers, then it makes no sense to move beyond that until the group really settles into those concepts. And if it takes a little bit more time, if it takes another quarter day, whatever it takes, that's, I think, a differentiating feature of the On the Mark program, where we're acting in service of your learning, and it doesn't help anybody to get into the design cycle if some of these initial concepts really aren't firmly and comfortably understood by everyone in the room.
Molly, you had your hand up a little while ago. Do you want to go?
Yeah, so the question I have, and Peggy actually is elaborating a little bit on it, so thank you, Peggy. You had mentioned that bringing a business case is helpful. What type of a business case would be something that you would recommend bringing? Like, what type of a case is it that you would recommend?
I'll give you some, what you want to be able to do. It's not so much a business case. What you want to bring is a project or something that you're in the process of working on or just finished, and you want to do kind of a post-mortem on it. It could be anything along the lines of if there's any kind of a redesign going on in your organization, would be really worthwhile, or someone saying they want to do that. A technology transformation project where some new technology is being put in place, and it could also it could include a restructure or something larger than a restructure. It could include an M&A piece of work, like you're integrating two parts of your business. So those kinds of big change initiatives are really ideal for to bring along.
That's perfect. I have the perfect idea. Also, this is probably a really dumb question, but just for Tom, you know me. I always ask the really dumb questions. So I'm going to ask it. Where is this located?
We're going to have it right here in the College Business, Molly.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
Right
road trip.
Yep.
Not really a road trip. It will be a driving trip or a flying trip for me. Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Right in a brand new building here in the College Business on campus.
My clarification is, as Mark said, it's not. It could be a postmortem, but if you can just bring to them, because it's just the information is voluminous. I mean, I didn't think I had so much information in a few days since I was like in PhD classes day one, semester one. But if you can say, here are some issues we're dealing with processes, with alignment, anything that would involve how do we, if you will, structure more effectively. You don't have to have it all written, but Mark is, I've had personal experience with Mark. I'm sure everyone that you work with Mark is the same. They'll say to you, okay, and here's what we mean by the macro. Here's what we mean by, your customer requirements or work streams. And I'm dating myself, Mark. You probably changed it up quite a bit, but they work with so many industries. And so of course, what they're giving you is applicable to many, many different companies, but just let them help you make it real, is my point. Don't be shy about that. Like Molly said, it's overwhelming, and don't think that means you don't get it. There's just a lot.
Thank you, Peggy. Go ahead, Debbie, please.
So I noticed when I clicked on the link and looked up the masterclass on your website, you indicated, at least the way I understood it, was that this was geared primarily for folks that are internal. in an organization. I don't know if you recall, I actually reached out to you about a year and a half ago. So I'm a private consultant, but I found with at least 2 of my clients so far, they could benefit well from some organizational design work. And even though I'm an MOD grad, I recognize my limitations. So would that still be something that would be okay for someone who's in private practice to participate? Because I think knowing a little bit more would be a benefit to my work.
Yeah, you're more than welcome, Debbie, and thank you for raising that. But I think given, you know, we've let other solo small practitioners come in. I think the thing we would say is respect our intellectual property, you know, the things we're going to share with you. But happy to have you join us and be part of the workshop.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure.
Yep, appreciate that. It's a good question. Other questions you might have of Kristin or Rachel, Dan, or Dawn, or myself?
Mark, I think Val had a question in the chat earlier. He said,
Can you say it?
Yeah, he said, what is the length of each day's session?
In time or intellectual journey, Val? It's a good question.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking from a planning standpoint for working professionals and planning ahead of this. So getting a feel for what's expected as far as from a commitment from us and what times of the day and how many, you know, it's like a full day session or should I be taking time off? And that's all what I'm thinking for.
Yeah, Monday we'll start at 10. Monday morning we'll start at 10. We'll go to 5.
If I can chime in from that as a working professional as well, and I was even traveling, as I said, to the UK for this session, I would highly recommend as much as you can to fully block out the whole week, even for work. And if you can find backup support to fill in for you, you'll need it. It is mentally draining, so it's difficult to go on and then try to coherently respond to emails or solve employee issues, or for me, I was dealing with payroll challenges. It definitely makes it a little bit more difficult, and you will want that recovery time in the evening to decompress, you know, do some personal light reading if you'd like to, meditation, what have you, so that you can rest easy and recharge for the next days.
We'll go 8:30 to 5, Val. I think that's what we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we have an early release on Friday. I'm not exactly sure what time we set on Friday, but it won't be the full day on Friday. Dan, I don't have that in front of me. Maybe Aaron does, but or Rahul. I don't have, but it'll be an early release mid-afternoon, Val. Particularly for those who are traveling, which it sounds like many of you might be. Does that give you a sense of that, what you need?
Yes, it does, and thank you.
Sure. And of course, we'll give you some 45 minutes for lunch. We'll give some breaks, that kind of thing. But I think Kristin's spot on. We want to be careful about juggling too many things. We don't typically go backwards in the workshop, and we just keep moving forward. Obviously, we'll brief you. Yes, we'll have Tom. We'll have some, yes, lunch will be provided and included in your fee, and we'll have some light breakfast snacks. We're not going to have a full-on breakfast, so if you want a traditional American breakfast, you'll have to stop off someplace. I'm sure we can find something around.
Correct.
But we will have beverage. Is that right, Tom?
Correct.
We also, Tom, do you want to talk about, you're planning on a bit of an event on, I think we said Wednesday evening? What did we decide on?
Yeah, I think we decided Wednesday evening. We'll have a little bit more of a networking evening with the attendees, as well as with the faculty who are facilitating the masterclass, as well as with our faculty from our doctor program and the EMOD program. So just more opportunity to be able to have OD discussions with like-minded folks. as we like to say, our people. That's what we refer, right? ICW smirk. Yep, our people, right? My people. That's what we typically hear.
Exactly, the clan.
Yeah, and I think
Well,
that's. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
Yep, and that'll be right here in the in our college business, right in the atrium. Yep.
Aaron or Tom, can you answer Daisy's
Yep.
question? How do we register? Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, sure. Daisy, thanks for the question. I actually can follow up with you and send you the link to register. I'll also put it in the chat right now so that everyone has it just in general.
And there is a fee difference for our BGSU students and alumni, just an FYI.
Hey, Tom, I have another logistical detail to ask about. I will attest the new College of Business on BG's campus is phenomenal. I've had the opportunity to come on campus a few times.
Yep.
Parking, will we have some sort of parking pass or something? Because that can get dicey.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, this will happen during the 2 weeks where there are no classes being held on campus. So you'll be able to park right outside our door here, I believe. Should have no problem with that. We'll make sure you have parking permits to be able to do that. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yep, it's the 2 weeks between, it's one of the 2 weeks between the end of the spring semester and the beginning of the summer semester. On purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
So picking up the thread of on one of these days, there's going to be a reception or a social gathering. Picking up that thread, I think what you'll experience is what every other masterclass participant experiences as you leave as a type of learning group or cohort, depending on what language you want to use. And what you'll find, and Kristin, you can comment on this based on your experiences, is everybody in your group, whether they're learners or whether they're the quote unquote faculty, which would be me and Mark and others from OTM, are available into the future. And if you have questions about some of the content, or I'm facing this situation at work, and I'm having trouble squaring that with what I learned in the masterclass, can you spare 20, 30 minutes and talk me through how you might think about this? That's a residual benefit from the masterclass. I don't know that it exists in the same way with other competitive upskilling offers in the market, but I know that it exists with the On the Mark masterclass, and so that will be something that you take with you into the future. It's up to you to exercise it, of course, but it's available to you. And it's one of those moments at the end of the masterclass where it feels a little sad, like we're kind of parting ways for now, but we know that everyone's accessible into the future. Kristin, I'm not sure if you experienced that when you wrapped up on the last day or not.
Yeah, mine was a bit unique because I was attending also with colleagues, but we had some guests that were also participating as well. And we all had the same message, and that was to, follow up with us. And we wanted to hear how their OD worked because they were just getting ready to kick off a really big process. And we were all curious to understand how some of the challenges they were foreseeing would come to light or how they'd overcome those. So we have all exchanged emails and have asked for us to reconnect so we can get that bit of closure to understand how their process wrapped.
And Kristin's boss, a young woman named Jilly, always reaches out to us. We first trained Jilly in 2008 when she was an HRBP at British Airways. And I still get a reach out from Jilly who will say, here's what we're trying to do. Can I bounce some ideas off you? So we actually love it. We love being there for our alumni. Just like BGSU does, Tom, in terms of your alumni, how they're such a critical, vital part of On the Mark. Other questions we can answer, Val, Daisy, Jordan, anything?
I think Linda, you had a question in the chat, didn't you?
Tom responded. I was just looking at what size are we looking at, and he indicated there'd be about 20 people in a class.
There's a lot of, one of the things we'll do is we try to make at least 50% of the time you're actually working hands-on in real projects and working on real activities. So it's not, Dan, Dawn, and Rahul and I are not really good at standing up and just lecturing. So there'll be a lot of hands-on, a lot of work, a lot of real examples, things for you to push off of.
I'd say think about your EMOD weekends, your doctor weekends, be the interactive elements of it, right? Similar, not the sage on a stage.
Anything else from anyone? Great. Kristin, you have any final thoughts about, you're about 2 months out right now from your Masterclass experience, right?
Yeah, I am. And, you know, I think there's a point you made in the beginning about how you never look at work the same way. And it's absolutely true. While the organizational design class is more meant to be kind of big scale, sometimes you can't help but think about that one role and how you might be able to do a little mini OD on it and follow the work and look at the details. And it can be quite helpful. The wisdoms I've written down, they stick with me nearly every day, and I take it into a lot of my daily meetings and can be able to take some of my stakeholders down a different journey than they were originally planning to go with me. It really is a rewarding aspect.
Well, Kristin, you have to share with us a couple of those wisdoms that you carry around with you, aside from follow the work, which is one of my favorites.
The one that has the biggest post-it note is pay now or pay later. Absolutely my favorite. It's the concept in terms of you put in the time, the energy, the effort, put it in now, or you're going to put it in later when maybe it's harder or more challenging to come back from whatever's already been done. So that one's got the biggest post-it note on mine. And I've got about a dozen of them written down here.
Well, that's a good start. Thank you for those, Kristin.
Of course.
Hey, Mark. So if the group will indulge me just a couple minutes, I have a brief story to tell, and then maybe that's the wrap. But some of you know, and some of you joined after I made this comment. I went to an MOD program at Pepperdine, and what I learned there was strategic organization design. And when I came to On the Mark, I realized that, yeah, that was a good class and it set a good foundation, but I didn't really know how to bring it to life. I didn't know what to do with it. So, you know, it might be a similar experience at Bowling Green. If it is, I certainly don't cast judgment. It's a big topic. And what I think you'll experience with OTM's material is it's a pragmatism that translates the Galbraith star, whatever your model is of organization design and the design features. It's the pragmatism of taking the conversation from that high level model down into something that you can actually design and implement, which is, it was significant learning for me. And I thought I came really well prepared. And then I realized the pragmatic detail of designing an organization is something that I didn't come out of a program with. So that might be something that resonates with you all.
Can I build on that, Dan? Because before ever joining On the Mark, I was also a participant in the masterclass, and I can absolutely build on what Dan was saying about I was in the eye of the storm of an enterprise-wide redesign, and I brought that as my case and was able to get sort of great learning from both the facilitators and the other participants. I was really able to test my thinking and able to have my thinking challenged. And I was able to go back almost the next day after each of the modules and use those sort of challenges and questions and frameworks in my actual work. So I just wanted to build on what Dan was saying about how pragmatic the masterclass is.
And of course, it seems appropriate to say this, if you're like totally not happy and satisfied, is, commercially we'll guarantee that you'll get exactly what you need and want. So, and if you have some concerns or you don't get that, then all you have to do is come back to us and tell us, and we'll talk it through and we'll figure out a solution for you. All right, with that said, Linda, anything? Looks like you were ready to say something. No? Erin, do you want us to pass it back to you?
Yeah, sure.
Close it up for us?
All right, sure. Thank you all for coming. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out directly to me. You can send me an email at eball, B-A-L-L, @onthemark.com. And I will also provide that in the chat right now. But thank you guys so much for your time. And again, thanks, Kristin, for having us and for joining. And yeah.
And Peggy as well. Yeah. Thank you, Kristin. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you.
Everyone, we look forward to hopefully seeing you in Bowling Green.
You're welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Cheers.
everyone.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye all.